Hello, welcome. My name is Josie and you're listening to the Yoga Local podcast. And basically this podcast is all about trying to kind of expand on the teachings that I'm offering here in the studio and bring them to life, make them more relatable. And so I was chatting today to a new friend and we're having coffee and having a conversation, and I was just chuckling to myself about how quite often, in fact more often than not, what I'm teaching in class is really a reflection of what's happening in my life and things that are for my ears as much as for anyone else's. And often I think there's this assumption that when you practice yoga, it's kind of like a get out of jail free card, and in terms of having to deal with stuff, and it couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, it's the opposite. The more that you practice, the more that you go within, the more that life gives you to help you to evolve and grow. And my teacher often says the efficacy of your practices shows up not in your practice, not on the mat. It shows up in what's going on in your life. And so it can be a bit rough because quite often when life starts to really invite you to level up, it's giving you more and more experiences to go within and find those deeper qualities that help you to work through challenges, to navigate life in all its glory. There's ups and there's downs, and part of being fully whole and fully connected is recognizing that that's part of the deal. That's part of what comes with the contract of having this human experience. So yeah, it's about learning how to surf those waves. I know this is a very tried and tested analogy, but yes, the waves are going to happen. It's how adeptly and effectively we ride those waves. Last week we talked about being patient, and because the journey of learning and being disciplined and coming back to something again and again requires such a level of patience. But what I wanted to talk to you about this week is spaciousness as part of that deal of how we create the will to keep going. It's a tricky line to walk, the yoga path, and we'll fall off many times, trust me, and sometimes it can feel really, really difficult to dust yourself down, pick yourself up and get back on that path. And this is where the whole teaching of space really comes into its own, because we need to offer ourselves at time that space and grace to reflect, to restore. We are humans. The tradition says we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but essentially we're human, and to err is human, right? To mess up is human. So things are going to go, things are going to come up in life that are going to test us, and sometimes we'll ride that wave, and sometimes we'll crash and burn, a bit of a wipeout, should we say. But that is part of the deal, and what I'm always saying is that the tradition doesn't leave us hanging. It kind of the yogis before us, the ancient sages that have been passing these teachings down through millennia, have been there and done that, got the t-shirt, and these teachings are a way of helping us navigate our path in that same direction, understanding that this is part of the process, this is part of the deal. And spaciousness is a practice, a teaching that's really going to help us to, as I said, reset in those moments when we're feeling constricted, when we're feeling up against it, when we think life's working against us and not for us. I think it's a real problem. It can become a real problem if we start to neglect that part of our practice. and life will have us thinking, society will have us thinking that we need to, as soon as there is space in our life, to fill it with more, to do more, to get more done. And this is a bit of a trap, and I am not immune to falling into that trap. As a business owner, there is that pressure and demand. I think that many of us feel to do more, to get more things done, to be successful, to please everyone, and often that can be at the expense of our own well-being. Burnout is a familiar phrase. It's almost kind of like an acceptable phrase in modern day living. Feeling burnt out, and it's kind of seen as a necessary byproduct of being successful, but we seriously need to reframe that and find space to not allow ourselves to drift into overwhelm and constriction, because and I can speak with experience in this area, it will rob you of your joy. It will rob you of your vitality. Constriction starts to seep into every area of your life. As you contract, you may pull away, you may withdraw. This can be from your relationships, from your friendships. Things that were once kind of joyful and full of life and vitality can suddenly seem like they're being neglected, those relationships neglected, and don't bring those same feelings. And our conversations can become more functional, more constrained, more short. Trying to be efficient, just getting things done. We cut people off. We don't truly be in a space with someone and listen. Our breathing changes. We become short in our breathing as our desire to do more creates this short chest breath, which is also going to start to affect our internal environment. Our physiology starts to change, it's a downward spiral that can lead us to really hitting a wall, and this is when we really need to kind of come back to our practices. There's a section in the Bhagavad Gita, which the Bhagavad Gita is the story form of the Yoga Sutra, and it says it describes a moment when Arjuna, who's the hero of the story, shall we say, is on his knees in his chariot, and he just doesn't want to deal with the situation that he's in, and Krishna picks him up, dusts himself off, and in a very kind of tough love kind of way, which really I relate to, tells him to that's his dharma, that's his purpose. Get on with it and go out and back out in the world and do what needs to be done. And that's a really big message in yoga. And at times we need to find that space to recoup and find the teachings that are going to help us get back off our knees and get out there and start to enjoy life again, and embrace the highs and the lows. And it's through our practice in the yoga studio, on our mats, when we're at home in home practice, that we can really dig into that teaching of finding space. In the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali actually gives us the instructions for successful asana. To be successful in posture really has nothing to do with flexibility. He gives us 3 instructions. One of them is steadiness, one of them is ease of mind, and the other is spaciousness. And so when we come to our asana practice, these are the concepts that we need to be like inviting into our sequencing. Can we find the space to be still, to appreciate that there needs to be a sense of kindness and compassion as we move towards growth and expansion, that we maybe need to sometimes look for space to be playful and not quite so serious in our practice, and just give ourselves the grace to accept where we are in our practice, as well as wanting to evolve and to grow, which is the path of a yoga practitioner. Our path is to self-realize, to become all that we can be. So there is an element of of working hard, of following a path of making those steps towards, but we have to be very careful that we don't cross that line where it moves into overwhelm and burnout. So these are the things that I feel aren't well taught, not taught often enough. Are a massive part of how we succeed as yogis, as we succeed in evolving and moving ourselves through life. That it's also really important for me to be real and make you aware that even yoga practitioners, even teachers of yoga are walking the same path, going to have the same obstacles, going to have to work through the same challenges. It's not necessarily a linear path, and it's important to recognize that the lows, although as hard as it is to stomach, the lows are there to support us as much as the highs. And what do we extract? What can we extract from every experience? Where can we find the space to find repose? So repose from a moment, take a moment to pause and see where the lesson is, see where the growth is, see where it's calling us to dig deeper and go harder in on where we may have lost some of that focus on some of these teaching, the steadiness, the ease of mind, and the stillness. Are we moving away from those bigger concepts of yoga just to get the job done as our life becomes more full and more overwhelmed? So things to think about. I'm interested to hear about how you feel about yoga as more than just shapes and getting a physical workout, because it's really so much more than that. And I'm hoping that through these conversations that I can do my bit to open up what is such a massive conversation, and also provide some tools to help us all navigate it a little bit more. Maybe be that surf teacher that helps you to ride that wave in with a little bit of grace, and less crashing and burning along the way. So if that's something that you value and you want to talk more about and you want to bring into your practice, then I'm just a message away. Message me, email me, or come along to one of our classes if you can here in person, or join us online. There's always that option too. So here's to bringing space into our life, and I'll see you on the next podcast. Bye for now.